Fat Boy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined by my fellow rumor mongerer, Tucker Hazel. And we're here today to discuss the state of play, as it were, here. Not the PlayStation term, but the general high-level state of play of Nintendo's 2022 year. Do they have surprises in store? Do we know everything that they're doing? Is that January Direct happening any motherfucking day now? We're going to get to all of this, but before we do, if you want to share your thoughts about Nintendo's new year or anything else at all, be sure to join our Discord link as usual, top of the description right down there. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, hug your mom.
Well, let's not get too crazy.
But Tucker, we've done the plugs, everything's out of the way. The high-level question that's been circulating on Twitter, and there's been quite, pardon my language, a hullabaloo on Twitter the last couple of days.
Oh yeah.
Tucker, do you think that Nintendo has blown their load for 2022 already, or is there more in store?
Well, the obvious answer is, of course, there's more in store.
Right.
We only have 5 of the months filled, and of course, they're filled by some of the biggest games in the Switch's life cycle and some of the biggest games releasing this year. But there's still other things to be revealed. Naturally, I mean, we need the B and C tier releases to fill out around them. But the degree to which has Nintendo blown their load being the question is up in the air. And what it appears from the leaks and the rumors and the games being thrown left and right and picking up threads that were started like 3 years ago, all this kind of nonsense. Apparently, Nintendo's got the juiciest fucking load in their cannon. It's going to come.
It's dripping out of the cannon.
Yes.
So Tucker, let's fucking lay the pipe here for a moment.
Yes, we're always doing that here on Backlog Banter.
And just talk about what we know already, right?
Yeah.
So we have Legends Arceus.
Yes.
We have
very soon.
Very soon. We have Triangle Strategy, which is the next game after that. And then in the ether, we have Kirby in the Forgotten Land. We have Bayonetta 3. We have Splatoon 3. We have Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope. We have Pokemon Legend. So that already. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
We have those 7. Is there any? We have Advance Wars. So 8.
Oh, true. Yes. That has a release date, correct?
No.
Advance Wars? What the fuck happened to that game?
People keep saying Advance Wars has a release date, but it's just a fucking placeholder date.
Oh, okay.
9 times out of 10, if a game's release date is on the 31st of like the end of a quarter, it's just a placeholder date.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we have those 8 games. And frankly, that is a year's worth of games.
That's 2 years worth of games.
Right. So
it's more than 2 years worth of games for the last 3 years compared to the last 3 years of Nintendo Switch.
Yes. I am inclined to believe, Tucker, that there are going to be more surprises, but I am not sure how many of those are going to be 2022 surprises.
Sure.
I think there is certainly room to slide in a Wind Waker HD on Switch when Breath of the Wild inevitably gets delayed. I'm personally of the mindset that game has it is more likely than not that it does not release in 2022. That's where I'm sitting personally. But I think there's certainly space. Nintendo always notoriously finishes games and holds them. So I think that there are probably games that can fill gaps strategically as need be. But I think that in a landscape where COVID is still fucking up development, Nintendo is probably going to want to be judicious about holding games for later. So I don't see us going beyond a game a month. And I'm not even sure I see us reaching a game a month in 2022.
No, I don't think we almost ever really reach a game a month. I think there's runs where that will happen, but it's very rare, if ever, that we get 12 games that fill out specifically each month of the year. You've got zones where games slot in, and I think that's what this year is already pretty clearly going to be. The order of which is unclear, because why would they tell us the release date for Kirby and the Forgotten Land? That'd be too crazy for us. But what the leaks and rumors, mostly from Twitter user Leaky Pandy, who not only is a very reputable leaker, but uses a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 character as their profile picture, which pleases me greatly. They indicate that the load and the mysteries, whether they or not they've released this year, are a lot of very big stuff, which is what's most surprising. Is if you look back at last year and you're like, wow, there was most months had a game or multiple, depending on how it shaked out. Sometimes the game was Miitopia and Famicom Detective Club. Those games don't really light a spark in anyone but the heart of Abram Buhner. But this year's supposed B tier releases are sparks of hope, some might say.
Now, Tucker,
I had to say that.
Now, Tucker, you're totally right, and I think we ought to really get to the meat of the matter, which is this Leaky Pandy tweet. And I want to get into it. And I also want to say no disrespect to this person, but I do not consider them to be especially reputable.
Okay, sure.
Frankly, there's very few people whose leaks I hear and I trust.
Yeah.
Somebody like a Jeff Grubb says something, I believe it. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of these people, as we're going to get into,
like Star Fox fucking Grand Prix,
that's the problem. Yeah. There are a lot of examples where people with credibility go out on the line and say things that are not true. It becomes a pattern, and that's not necessarily to mean that they don't have information. I'm sure these people have sources.
Yeah,
but in years that are becoming as volatile as these, I do not put a lot of trust into what any of these people say. And I want to talk about why I personally am very skeptical of a number of things that are being reported by both Leaky Pandy, but also several of the other corroborating sources.
Yes.
But let's lay the foundation here. The floodgates were fucking blown open on January 3rd when Leaky Pandy tweets, new games expected to be revealed this year, heard of Xenoblade side game. These are what I'm about to list are all Nintendo exclusives.
Yes.
Xenoblade side game, Rogue Squadron 4, Mario Kart 10 / Crossroads, been exposed to both names, unsure of the final one, features multiple IP, and then a Pikmin title developed by Next Level Games. And then goes on to share some others, including Pokken Tournament 2 from Bandai Namco Entertainment as a Switch exclusive, of course. And then also Klonoa Reverie as a Switch exclusive, which has been debunked by several people. But then
really? Okay, I haven't seen that.
But then we got people here like Marco Maro with this Detective Pikachu profile, which might how people might recognize this individual who writes, the new Pikmin game unlikely to have a chance with the packed schedule of 2022, but I believe that at least will be announced late this year. The development of this game was in a bit of a hell and was only until 2018 when they started working on it seriously after the restart. To which Leaky Pandy, I believe, quote tweets that. Give me a second to pull up, because now we're going down the rabbit hole. Yes, Leaky Pandy says here, this checks out with what we have heard. The new Pikmin title also played an important role in pushing Nintendo into acquiring Next Level Games since they're the ones developing it. And then we have everybody's favorite conceptual leaker whose track record becomes worse and worse over time. That's Hot Girl Video 69. Of course,
this is not someone I've been familiar with. When you mentioned that name, I thought it was a porn thing. And I don't think I don't think it's ridiculous for me to assume that, considering the content that you personally consume, and we're not going to get into that here.
Yes, of course. Well, Hot Girl Video 69 came to prominence last year under the guise of being basically working, doing sex work. I don't know exactly what they purported to do.
Okay.
But one of their clients apparently worked for Nintendo.
I see.
And apparently that's where they got their information from. That is, of course, all very alleged.
Yes.
But
in Roblox.
Hot Girl Video 69 quote tweets Leaky Pandy and says, enough people have asked. Some of this is correct. We've been told Klonoa is not Nintendo exclusive. There is a Xenoblade Spin-Off coming. We've told that there's a different Star Wars game coming that is an RTS, not part of this. That Pikmin game will likely get held. There are multiple Zelda titles that are finished, remastered versions, and a new spin-off. Wondering if they get held until word on BOTW2 delay. There's a new Katamari style game coming from a Japanese studio that Nintendo has purchased exclusive rights to. It's like a puzzle-based Katamari almost. There's some absolutely batshit rumors about Nintendo and Microsoft. Temper your expectations.
Okay.
I know the biggest one we heard about, everyone wants to know, is Mario Kart. We've talked about this in the past. The intent was to hold Mario Kart 10 until the new dock launches. I think that's done now. Not sure if that's the case or not. Sorry. Still holding. To be clear, we're not doubting Leaky Pandy. This is just different from what we've been told. Also, they left out the Fire Emblem stuff, Donkey Kong, etc.
Yes.
And Tucker, this
I have to take a deep breath just after hearing that.
This only scratches the surface of what people are putting out, especially when you factor in other leakers like Metroid Hunter and what Emily Rogers are saying about franchises like Metroid and Pokemon. I don't believe any of it.
Any of it? Okay, interesting.
No, I don't believe any of it because, again, Nintendo is clearly running a misinformation campaign to some extent or another.
Sure, yes.
Star Fox Grand Prix is the most obvious canary in that coal mine. Now, the reporting of that being a false flag has been not necessarily confirmed. I believe it was Jeff Grubb who ran that story and since pulled it. But the point is, Nintendo is savvy. And obviously, all these people have different sources talking in their ears. But you can only tell me the same nonsense so many times, whether that's about hardware, whether it's about software, whether it's about new presentations, before I stop believing any of you. And frankly, I find a number of these leaks to be incredibly hard to believe.
Is there any specific one that you want to drill in on, or?
I find the Pikmin one to be very strange. I think that the idea of next level games being given Pikmin is not crazy, considering they have proved themselves, whether it's Mario Strikers or Punch Out or Luigi's Mansion. Mm-hmm. But the idea that because obviously I need a much deeper dossier on what these people know, but
yes,
if what I'm being told is that Miyamoto was working on Pikmin 4 several years ago, then that game gets scrapped and then development restarted, perhaps in 2018. I don't see a landscape in which Next Level Games is told to not pursue Luigi's Mansion further or pursue another Mario Strikers game.
Well,
it just seems like Next Level Games would not necessarily be the team to do that when this is Miyamoto's baby, when Miyamoto has gone on record talking about a Pikmin 4 as far back as 2016. That seems weird to me. I think that the Mario Kart 10 Crossroads thing does not sound particularly real to me, frankly. I think the idea that Crytek would be given a Rogue Squadron 4. First of all, the idea of bringing Rogue Squadron 4 back is peculiar, considering that franchise is dead and gone. But also that Crytek of all teams is being given that. That seems a little bit peculiar, especially with the ways that EA had that exclusivity over the license for a long time. Pokken Tournament 2, I'm not sure about. I'm skeptical of this idea that there's a ton of remastered Zelda games and a spin-off in the works. It's like, none of these ideas are particularly crazy, but I just think that the fact that there's suddenly this convergence of all these games seems incredibly improbable, especially when, why is Crytek making the 4th entry in a game where we haven't had another one since 2003? Why is Next Level Games being given Pikmin? It's very hard to believe, especially when I don't necessarily trust the credibility of any of these people talking.
Obviously, the credibility is the biggest nut in this monkey wrench. We don't know if these people know what they're talking about. And frankly, for a lot of this and seeing how large scale it is, we might not know the full extent of the truth of these leaks for a year and a half. Like if they say that these are all supposed to be at least revealed this year, but I mean, obviously things change, things are getting pushed, things are getting stretched out because, of course, this year is very full of games and things to talk about. So they're not running dry of things to reveal to talk about. But personally, I mean, and I guess I haven't really considered it from a lot of the development history angles, but each of these games that we drill in on these leaks, for me, don't necessarily seem that improbable. When I think about Next Level Games and the way that they have been handed multiple different franchises to try things, them being handed Pikmin is not insane. I think Pikmin 4 is pretty much gone, frankly. I don't know if that game is ever going to come out, considering it's been like 7 years in fucking development or whatever. Like that, obviously there's things going on there, but the idea of maybe this isn't a core Pikmin title, maybe this is Pikmin Adventures or whatever, and it's Next Level take on Pikmin. Okay, sure. I don't think that they're going to pursue Luigi's Mansion when we've never gotten 2 Luigi's Mansion games in a console life cycle before. Okay, if they're working on that, that's not till 4 years down the line, so they're working on something in the meantime. I don't know anything about Rogue Squadron. I've never even fucking heard of that before, but the idea of bringing back a franchise with a new developer isn't insane idea. I do think that it's shaky because of the credibility, but a lot of these things are very specific in a way that I think does lend at least some credibility to their existence. Is why would you randomly pull out of your ass that the fucking Luigi's Mansion developers are talking about are making a Pikmin game? Pikmin, a franchise that is already very confused, that is supposedly supposed to be getting more drummed up with fucking Pikmin Boom, godforsaken, coming out, and Pikmin 4 being in the fucking ether. Like, I think that these things are slightly more reasonable than maybe you're letting on, and each of the things that you're breaking down, I don't think are necessarily as deep of stakes as maybe you think they are.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but it's just like if you want to expose where your leaks are coming from, Crytek is making Rogue Squadron 4. Mm-hmm. And then then that gets passed along, and then now we can trace back exactly where that leak came from.
Sure.
It's not unreasonable to suspect that some of that is happening. My insinuation here is not that these people are making shit up. I don't think that's true.
Sure. No.
I think that the most likely situation, because we see a shit ton of Nintendo rumors that never come to fruition.
Yeah.
Constantly, is that there are probably a lot of people talking with probably a lot of misinformation, either because things get misinterpreted because this is all back channel conversation, yes, or things are intentionally planted to follow this trail of information, because Nintendo clearly is not happy that their information is leaking all the time. Yeah. They are incredibly aggressive against Switch piracy, against emulation, against a lot of things, and especially broken street dates and such. So, it's not that hard for me to believe that they are doing their best to follow these things down.
Sure.
And part of that would be, Rogue Squadron, which has not had a release since Rebel Strike on GameCube, is being given to Crytek, who is making PC multiplayer shooters mostly right now. It's like, I don't know about that. That seems really out of left field when you contextualize that within a landscape where the people getting the Star Wars license right now at the highest level are EA and WB and Ubisoft. Crytek is making it in there. These things are incredibly exciting, but in a landscape where so much of this shit never comes true, in a landscape where Nintendo is aggressive at protecting their pre-release and into release window information and narrative. Mm-hmm. I don't know, especially again, when we have so much shit announced and there's so much volatility in the ability for teams right now to develop games and get them out the door.
Sure. Yeah. But I do think that a lot of my thought process on this mostly comes down to, this is all stuff that is intended, according to the rumors, to be revealed this year.
Right.
The development history of these games is obviously unknown. Some of them, it seems, started development a while ago. And so the volatility of it, them just being revealed this year doesn't, I don't think, mean that they couldn't have been development for a long time. They will be real now, released in fucking a year and a half. Like there's all sorts of ways that these still can fit into the volatility of the landscape.
Yeah, sure. And that's a good point.
And a Pokken 2, sure. I mean, actually, I think that's one of the lower stakes ones, period, on this. Like, that makes sense. Bandai Namco's fucking huge. They've got a ton of projects in the works. I would not be surprised if that happened. Yeah. I would not be surprised if Mario Kart 10, assuming that's what they call it, because it's fucking Nintendo and they want to count Mario Kart Home Invasion as a fucking main title or the mobile game or whatever the fuck. That game's got to be real. They've got to be working on the next fucking Mario Kart. Okay, if that's announced this year, releasing next summer, I think that's reasonable. A B-tier Pikmin game from a different studio, like I think a lot of these are pretty reasonable. And if I'm reading into this, and obviously we don't know what's real, we don't know what's not. There could be a couple nuggets of true information in here, and then fucking who knows what else Nintendo feeding spooky spies into the industry could feed into a really interesting 2023 for the Switch's life cycle. Considering I don't know if a lot of these would also release this year. Yeah. Considering we already have such a full slate.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I think you can rationalize basically any of the leaks we've gotten over the past 5 years in this respect. Sure. And I guess my biggest point here is that nothing here feels different. And that's why I'm not necessarily excited about any of it, and why I didn't even. Oh, sure. I shared it in the Discord. I talked about it with the Ninty Fresh team a little bit, just like getting their thoughts on it. But I don't feel like this is anything to necessarily get excited over, because the missing piece is, where is the VGC Andy Robinson story corroborating any of these games the way that it was there for the Mario remasters or something, right?
You didn't even believe that.
No, I didn't even believe that. But in hindsight, I should have. Like there was all reason to believe that. Mm-hmm. There was every reason to believe Star Fox Grand Prix, which I think is part of the reason why I didn't believe the Mario remasters thing. Yeah. But I just feel like we are missing that backing at the highest level from the people whose word is effectively God. You know, if Jeff Grubb was saying, hey, Jeff Grubb, the man who stuck to his fucking guns and told us we're getting that March Direct, even when there was no announcement until the day of, that's the kind of man that I need in my corner telling me that this Pikmin game is real, you know? Because how many times have we heard that Mario Kart's going to get announced? How many times have we heard Pikmin's going to come back? How many times have we heard X and Y and Z, Pokken 2, and da, right?
Yeah.
Especially after there's still people talking about a Switch Pro. There are still leakers saying that, whoa, you know what? Well, we actually heard that actually the truth of the matter is these specs were real, but they were for a different device, right? It's like,
oh, sure.
There is so much chatter. None of it amounts to anything that I feel is substantive.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to believe Retro Studios revived Metroid in 3D. They revived Donkey Kong Country. They're going to do Star Fox. No.
Yeah.
You know, at a certain point, we're just missing that linchpin here. And this is my philosophy, again, toward pretty much every Nintendo leak of the Switch era. I don't believe anybody knows what they're talking about. And not because they're bad at their job, not because they're trying to be deliberately attention-seeking, but because Nintendo is in such a vibrant place right now that, of course, there's going to be people hearing shit because Nintendo is making a lot of aggressive decisions.
Yeah.
But are they panning out as a Crytek Rogue Squadron game announced this year? I don't know. I don't see why I should believe that.
Yeah, sure.
I guess that's my thing on it. But if they were real, Tucker.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know we were going there.
Let's just humor it for a second. Because it is still fun. Which of those is most interesting to you?
Well, the real sleeper hit for me is a Katamari style puzzle game.
Which means
whatever.
That one means nothing, by the way. It's very interesting. But I have no fucking clue.
There's not even a fucking developer. There's not an IP. There's not a fucking whatever. That, of course, is the most interesting to me because I'm a Katamari fan, and Katamari has been ostensibly dead for a while. I mean, a remaster of the first game don't mean diddles unless it's leading to something, in my opinion. Although Reroll is a great game. I'm interested in all these games. I think the exciting part about this is there aren't any here that fly completely under the radar for me, especially as we're really only focusing on the Nintendo stuff. All these games, if they are real, are things that I would be excited for, that get a pop. All of them get a pop in a direct to different degrees, of course, but the one that I think secondarily interests me most is the idea of a Xenoblade spin-off of some kind. Xenoblade has technically never gotten a spin-off. I mean, if you want to count X as a main series game, because it is, but then it's not 1 or 2, so it's
also the best
fucking
one.
Wild. Oh, interesting. But that one interests me a lot because we also were hearing, and we made a video about the possibility of a Xenoblade 3 releasing this year. And I think it's possible that these rumors are actually pointing to the same thing. Is someone last year hearing there's a new Xenoblade game in development, didn't necessarily think that, okay, it's going to be a spin-off, and like an action spin-off of some kind.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, that is the next Xenoblade game that if they do feed together, that one is interesting to me, certainly.
Yeah, I think that would be compelling because I really love the Xenoblade world. It's more the actual RPG gameplay in this context doesn't do it to me whenever I try. But action adventure, some people were saying Xenoblade Warriors. I think that if that was the case, these leaks would have that degree of specificity that it's a Warriors title. When I think the idea of even if it's more of like a Tales action RPG or something, could be quite compelling. Obviously, for me, the two most interesting Mario Kart 10 is like that's the fucking white whale for me right now. Obviously, I want F-Zero. Obviously, I want Star Fox. But of the games that are clearly gonna fucking happen, Mario Kart 10 is the one I'm waiting for. Of course, Mario Kart 9 is what I'm really waiting for. But I believe, if I remember correctly, Nintendo internally considers Tour to be Mario Kart 9.
Okay.
So if they call it 10, I don't really give a shit. I prefer they just call it Crossroads. Or I also think that's a terrible name. I hope they just call it, but if it's not a number, the point is that one's very exciting. I think the idea of Pikmin by Next Level Games, while I'm skeptical of its existence, especially in a landscape where Luigi's Mansion sells 10 million units, I think that's the other thing. We've never had an environment where Luigi's Mansion's been this profitable.
That's a good point.
But if they can reinvigorate Pikmin, that'd be fucking fantastic.
Yeah, that one I think is interesting because it is not Pikmin 4, which of course, as I've just recently played Pikmin 3, I would love a Pikmin 4. I would love a direct continuation of that. But the Pikmin world is so interesting. It has had so few opportunities to grow and expand that a different team doing at least slightly different gameplay format with the Pikmin world and concepts, I think that's actually more exciting to me than a Pikmin 4.
I talked about this back when I was writing for CBR. I think probably the idea of a Pikmin 4 in concept of being an iterative sequel upon 3 is probably a bad idea. Mm-hmm. I think the groundswell of 3 Deluxe and then Bloom sets you up for a soft reboot. I think that's what it sets you up for.
Okay, yeah.
But again, I just find it really hard to believe that is the game that Miyamoto doesn't have his hands on. Now, maybe it comes out that Miyamoto is working in partnership with Next Level Games, but I just find it hard that he's lost Zelda, he's lost Mario, he's lost Donkey Kong, he's also going to lose Pikmin. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
especially if you're going to have a partner.
The question is, what was his involvement in Hey Pikmin? What was his involvement in Pikmin Bloom? Like, is his connection to this franchise really as steadfast as maybe he says it is 6 years ago?
I mean, Pikmin is his baby. Of course. But the thing about it is, if this is
he made all those CG cutscenes by himself in a fucking dungeon.
If this is the next Pikmin game, if the Next Level Games title is the next Pikmin game, that's taking that away from Miyamoto is different from taking away the 3DS spin-off or taking away the mobile game. So I think there's a difference there. But we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Unless, and this is my new headcanon. Nintendo told Miyamoto that they were making Pikmin 4. They let him sit in his office doodling Pikmin all day. The game was never real. They're just trying to keep him fucking busy as his mind goes to shit because he's like 90 or whatever. And there's like, good boy, Miyamoto, keep working on Pikmin. But everyone else is laughing at him on the other side of the door.
That's a demonic, but I think quite compelling. But Tucker, I think where we ought to move this conversation next on our way out of it is what's next. It's as of the time of recording, it's January 4th. I think as of the time of posting, it's going to be the 6th or so. I think this post on the 6th. What's next? Is it direct time next week? Is it direct time in February? Or is it Legends Arceus? The word on the street, which I think has been confirmed as of the time that we're recording this, is that previews for Legends Arceus are going to drop from like news outlets probably actually tomorrow, typically when Nintendo stuff drops in a preview capacity.
That's very far in advance.
Yeah, but
I don't know if for previews,
for a first round of previews, it's not that far in advance.
Okay, sure.
I mean, people were playing Metroid Dread. People were fucking flying out to Nintendo headquarters playing Metroid Dread early. Like preview coverage is not particularly hard for me to believe that's true. But do you think it's direct time this month?
I'm gonna say no. Mostly because we did get a later in the year direct. Well, is that even true? What was it? September? Was it October direct? I can't fucking remember.
What are you talking about? You
mean last year? Yeah, what was last year?
It was October. It was early October because it was before NSO came out. It was early October, and then it was followed up by Animal Crossing Direct.
All those fucking months blend in my mind.
Yeah, they're all.
But I think February makes more sense, at least in my mindscape of the cadence of directs. For some reason, because we weren't even expecting to get a direct at all. Well, no, okay, hold on. Let me rewind. You didn't want a direct to happen last year, so that's fucking infecting my brain worm. In that they still have a lot of stuff to talk about, but I do think that getting Legends Arceus out first and maybe having it shortly after that would make sense, because I don't think there would be any Legends Arceus promotion in a direct anyway. But yeah, early February is my new headcanon. I'm just coming up with this.
I think that early February is probably too late, unless because you got to think about it. Triangle Strategy, I believe, is March. If there's nothing before if it's Legends Arceus, nothing in February, and Triangle Strategy, then I think the direct is in February. But I think if Nintendo is going to release something in February, whether that is Advance Wars or whether that is a stealth release. I mean, keep in mind, Nintendo fucking pressed 3D All-Stars to cartridge and put it on store shelves 2 weeks after it was announced.
Yeah, so that's true.
If there's going to be something in February, I think you need a direct in mid-January. If there's nothing until Triangle Strategy, I think you have a direct in February. I think you have a direct in February. I don't anticipate there being anything. I think Legends Arceus ends if Legends Arceus was like coming out this Friday. I think maybe you squeeze something in February. But if you go an end of January with a Pokemon game, you probably don't need the game in February. So
yeah, if there was to be a February game, they would have announced it in September, and then we would have just already known about it. So
yeah, unless it's there's also the possibility that we wake up on Twitter, hey, Advance Wars Reboot Camp is launching on
that's a good point.
February 14th.
I don't feel like they maybe even feel the need to like give that as big of a push as maybe we would want it to have. So I kind of agree with that. Is hey, here's the release date for Advance Wars.
Yeah,
pre-order your copies now. Well, I guess you already can, but they're reminding us regardless.
Yeah, but like I just think that tracks. I think that the year is set. Okay. I think the big question, and I think the last question we want to address here, and this is going to almost become a time capsule. I'd like to revisit this video in like pre E3 to see where we stand on all this shit, But I think the big X factor is if Breath of the Wild gets delayed out of 2022, and then we need a new holiday game. And I think that's likely, and I think the holiday game might be Donkey Kong. So I think that unless we're announcing a big thing to fill the Breath of the Wild void, there's probably not a whole lot of 2022 surprises left. Do you think Breath of the Wild 2 gets delayed? That's gun to your head.
No,
I
don't think so. I really don't think there's any reason to believe that it will be.
Yeah.
They've been pulling our balls for 3 years now on next year's gonna have information. Next year's gonna have information, and then a trailer last year, saying 2022. Again, game is based very heavily off the original. It's had the fucking development cycle of a full Zelda game at this point. What are they using this time for? It's unclear. Why would the game be pushed to 2023? I'm interested to hear your theories, but I think that linchpinning this year around a lot of stuff, because a lot of big games come out this year, but I do think that mid-generation refresh that we've been talking about in all our videos is a peak this year, and Zelda is the peak of the Switch in terms of launching with Breath of the Wild and the refresh now. I think it makes sense as the end of the year title.
I think that exactly what you said is also why it probably would get delayed. Okay. It's using the same map. We've been hearing about it for 3 years. But also they can't tell us the title, and that trailer had basically no information. And we're supposed to get more stuff, and then it slipped into next year.
Yeah.
Right?
This year.
Into this year now. I don't think they're ready. I don't think they're ready because again, we gotta remember Japan hit very hard by a work from home environment.
Sure.
So if you imagine that perhaps Champions Ballad development wraps mid 2017, the dev team takes some time off. Aonuma fucking, I don't know, spends his fucking bundle of money on, I don't know, a jet, and he's puttering around a little bit. He takes some time off. Point. The development, conceptual, pre-planning stages of development start mid 2018. Development's really only just getting underway by the time the game was announced as CGI trailer in 2019.
Sure.
You've got maybe 9 months worth of development into the game by the time COVID hits. Japan isn't ready for it. They're working in and out of the office for the next year and a half.
Sure.
Then all of a sudden, we're really quickly into 2022, and the idea of even building a new game in that same engine, in that same world, probably seems like a lot more daunting than it did in fucking mid 2018, 2019. I just don't think the game is ready. I do not believe that you can't tell us the title because it's a spoiler. It's complete horse shit. That trailer was cut together to be as vague as possible. It's not ready. I don't think.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about all of this is it's not unreasonable to start the hype cycle and information cycle of a Zelda game like 9 months in advance. I think it's pretty solid. So we will know if the game is coming this year within 2 months. I mean, because if it's after that and we haven't heard anything, I will finally side with you. I do think that they told us 2022, and of course it doesn't really mean anything because we've been fucking strung along for so long with COVID and all that. But the telling us of 2022, the constant things of, hey, you're getting information soon, fucking teasing us with the Skyward Sword bullshit last fucking March. Like all this stuff, I think points to me that they're working on it. They're pushed, but I don't think it slips from 2022. Sure. I think it's too important to them. Frankly, even if that means that the game is a quarter less baked than it should be, I don't know. But
I think Nintendo is doing well enough that they can afford to push that.
Sure. Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. If we don't see the game before E3, it is not releasing in 2022. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Because if we get to that situation, then it's Animal Crossing territory of, okay, here's the proper reveal of the game, and we're gonna delay it, but we're gonna soften it with an actual trailer. That's basically the Animal Crossing playbook. It was, hey, we're releasing in 2020, very, very quiet up until 2019 E3. They blow out the game and they say, oh, sorry, it's delayed.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty solid roadmap.
Sure.
So we'll see on that point. Tucker, the final question, and if we're using this as a fucking memory board that we'll refer to later. 7:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, January 4th, 2022. On the fucking Richter scale, how optimistic are you about Nintendo's year? Because we just came off of go back and watch the video. I'll probably I'm editing this one. I don't know how to do cards, but I do know how to use the end screen now. I'll probably put that as a video you can go watch when you're done here. We were very poor. We were very down in Nintendo 2021.
Yes. Which, by the way, as I've apparently been gathering, is an unpopular opinion.
But we're right.
Yeah.
How are you feeling on the Richter scale? So I need a number with a decimal point, 1 decimal point, about your optimism and excitement for 2022 for Nintendo.
For me, the Richter scale, not very hard to make point in the good direction. If you tell me that we're getting a big new Pokemon game in Splatoon 3 in a year, that's already victory enough for me to fucking go bananas. But we know that's not it. And the stuff that is pretty solidly confirmed to be coming this year is already more than enough to linchpin, again, as I said, 2 years. If 3, if they'd even stretched it out even further. So I'm already optimistic about the year. I think what pushes it even farther is that I do think that we still are, there's still the wiggle room to get those B and C tier releases, which are very exciting to you and me. But if any of these rumors are to be true, if 1 or 2 of these are announced, if one of them is released this year, that's already a solid enough, whichever one it is, B tier release to fill out part of the calendar. That makes this year even more enticing. If any of this is to be believed, maybe 2023 is also very interesting in terms of bigger releases, even if they are the B tier stuff. So I'm very, very, very optimistic.
Give me a number.
On the Richter scale? How long is the Richter scale?
I think the Richter scale, you look up
67?
The Richter scale, that's for earthquakes. Tucker, look up the numbers of the Richter scale while I give my answer. Then we'll both give a number.
Okay, well, you're typing. I don't know why you're typing.
Well, because I was going to look it up, but I was like, that doesn't make sense. We don't want any breaks. We want the conversation to flow smoothly.
Richter scale. No.
No, Richter scale. Don't look up Richter Belmont either.
No, never.
No.
9. 9 is the highest. On the Richter scale.
Right, because that's for earthquakes.
You know what? I'm gonna fucking go on a limb and say 8. I don't even care. Like I'm getting fucking Legends Arceus in 24 days, which is already one of the Richter-ish things that you can fucking do. So,
Tucker, I'm optimistic.
Yeah, that's tough coming from you,
but cautiously optimistic.
Okay,
because I've been very optimistic about the last couple of years, right? I'm very optimistic about them, but then they didn't pan out the way I wanted them to.
No.
And I'm not necessarily sure that this year will either. I think there's a lot better chance of it, but there's a lot of time for things to go wrong.
Sure.
A lot of time for games to get delayed, understandably. A lot of time for games to not turn out the way we want. So I'm gonna give you this.
Me?
In honor of Hot Girl Video 69, I'm gonna give it a 6.9 on the Richter scale. My excitement.
Okay. Well, that for me does not paint cautiously optimistic. That paints very optimistic because it's almost a 7, which is only 2 points down from the highest it can possibly be.
Well, think about it this way, Tucker. I think that let me show my hand here. This slate of games is a 9 out of 9 on the Richter scale for me.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I don't think it could get better. With nothing else announced, I think that this, if all of these games are at least very good, hopefully great each, then this is probably the best year of Nintendo that I can remember in a long time. Better than 2017, I'll say right now. I think this year can and very well, maybe better than 2017.
Sure. No, yeah.
And this is the first, I've said this every year since 2017, but this is the first time I've actually believed it, I think. But I have to knock it down those points because Nintendo's at the helm.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. Well, Tucker, I found this to be quite a compelling discussion.
I would hope so, because we went for a fucking while, which doesn't mean a lot for us. We'll squeeze the goddamn juice out of the balls of anything we want to.
Yeah, we will.
Fucking smiling at me. Well, bitch, don't smile at me. You didn't earn the fucking right.
Yeah, but I see you've returned to your domicile.
Is the reason you were smiling because you thought about the word domicile?
Yeah.